accidents and blind spots are ready to swallow blood. Witches are ready to shed the blood of what is among the members of our way. There is an hour here that if they don't have an escape and small to different countries. Never come again to the numbers, airplanes and water transport are going to claim a lot of blood. Are going to claim a lot of blood. And he is going to go. Nothing is somewhere once. How do they go? The ship, ferries, water transport is going to be dangerous. And yet here I must move to different countries. But I'm protected by blood. But it must be what is being shown you. Airplanes and water transport.
We start with the developing news from South Korea. A plane has crashed on landing at an airport in the country and at least 176 people have been killed. The Boeing 737 belonging to Jeju Airlines had 181 people on board, and officials say they expect that most are dead. They say some passengers fell out of the fuselage during the crash at Muan International Airport. 2 survivors have been found. And this is the moment that the plane skidded down the runway before hitting a wall and bursting into flames. The aircraft had flown from Bangkok and was arriving at Muan Airport. The authorities say a bird strike may have caused the landing gear to malfunction. The airline has issued a formal apology. Let's speak to Yoona Koo from the BBC Korean service. Hello to you. Just tell us, you're inside the airport now. Thank you so much for joining us from there. Tell us about the people who you've been seeing and speaking to. The families have gathered there just waiting for news, aren't they?
Yes, that's true, Lucy. There have been 170 confirmed deaths so far. And people here, yet many of them are still unidentified. So many people, mostly the families of the bereaved, are waiting here, waiting for the announcement or the identification. So right now I'm standing inside the airport where also many other families of the bereaved are staying. And from even far away, I can hear some of the families screaming and crying as they hear the announcement of the death of their loved ones.
And most of the people on board the plane, were they from South Korea? I understand they may have all been on holiday in Thailand for Christmas.
That is true. It is known that most of the people who are in the plane were families. Even there was youngest was born in 2021. And there were many family members altogether. And also, most of them are South Korean nationals, although there were 2 Thai nationals as well.
And in terms of the 2 people who survived, we understand that they were crew members. Has anything else been said about them?
Unfortunately, after the announcement of 2 survivors, we are not hearing any additional survivors at this moment, and it seems pretty much a low chance to expect another survivor. And they are right now staying in the hospital, luckily not very heavily damaged. However, they aren't doing interviews, but it is known that according to local reports, they were saying to the hospital, one of them said they barely remember anything before the accident.
I mean, it is extraordinary when we look at the footage of the huge plume of smoke from when the plane crashed into that wall or at the end of the runway. It is extraordinary to think that anybody could have been pulled out of there alive. Can you talk to us about what the authorities have been saying about this Mayday call made by the pilot, and also the fact that there was this air traffic control warning about a potential bird strike? What can you tell us about what was said by the authorities on that front?
So far, the investigation has just started, so there aren't much to confirm. But however, the authorities have been saying that they issued a bird strike warning just before the accident, and then 1 minute later, the plane sent a mayday signal saying that they're in an urgent situation, and then the plane just landed without a landing gear, and unfortunately they couldn't speed down and eventually crashed to the end of the runway. That's what we know as so far.
And can you tell us a bit more about this airline? It's very well known, isn't it? It's a budget airline in South Korea that a lot of people will have used.
True. This is one of the most popular low-budget airline in South Korea. However, it is known that this from Bangkok to Jeonnam, this airway has just began operating this line. So people are saying that there must have been inexperienced staff regarding this flight. However, the authorities keep saying that they need to investigate thoroughly to exactly know what is the actual cause behind this accident. Many people are expecting there have been like 1 or 2 bird strikes, which eventually caused a flame inside the plane. However, it is just a guess for right now.
And there's a huge number of emergency personnel were sent to the scene, weren't there? More than 1,500 people were sent there to deal with this. Can you just explain who is in charge, who's coordinating everything? Because we've got an acting president who's only been in the job 2 days. Is it the president's office and the president who's coordinating all of this? Who's in charge?
So, as you said, acting president is right now in charge of everything. However, as we know, there have been some political turmoils in South Korea in this month, and the prime minister has just been impeached on Friday. So many people are worrying if this accident can be settled quite soon. However, as you said, there are more than 1,000 personnel, securities, and those in support of the family of the bereaved. So we are expecting things to settle down soon.
And who is it that's dealing with the relatives, those people there where you are in the airport? Are they getting regular updates? Who's looking after them?
So right now, fire authorities who are in charge of rescuing efforts are making announcements regularly about like 1 hour and 2 hours every hour. So the family of the bereaved are now gathering in some part of the airport where fire authorities come out and say the updates and what they have found so far.
Presumably there's no other activity in the airport there. Presumably that's been completely closed to everybody else, and it's just reporters like yourself along with the relatives of those people who are looking for answers.
Right now, journalists are quite restricted to move around this airport, and the airport itself, the runway is closed until 1st of January. So apparently you can say the airport isn't operating because of this accident.
Right. And you may not be able to see from where you are, but we're looking at the images of the crash site. It's dark outside now, of course. They seem to have turned the floodlights off. But presumably, although there are actually a different view there, we're showing a few floodlights a bit further away. But presumably the police forensics are still on site, are they?
Yes, true. And the police and the relevant authorities have been saying it is really difficult to investigate into the reason behind the crash because, as you mentioned earlier, the plane was shattered into pieces and there is hardly any wreckage left there, only the little bit of the tail part of the plane. So this is making the investigation and rescue and identification efforts extremely challenging right now.
I think what we're looking at is the tail of the plane, and it's my understanding that the flight crew, the 2 members of the flight crew who were pulled from the debris alive, were in that back section. But we also saw the forensics experts in their white suits going through the sort of grassy area around the runway, and quite a large site that they were covering, isn't it?
Yes, because right now, many people are so desperate to know the reason behind this crash because, as I said, many people are guessing there was a bird strike behind this accident. However, bird strike is not something that happens very often, but that is something that any airplane company should be aware of and they should have been ready to confront this kind of accident. So people are saying what people are insisting is to look into the reasons behind this accident, unless because many people are using this low-budget airline these days, and they are now afraid to use this airlines because of potential bird strike or accidents, devastating accidents like this. So I think the authorities are trying to speed up the investigation process at this moment.
In terms of the airline's safety record, though, I mean, South Korea has a good safety record, doesn't it, when it comes to airline safety? And this would be the worst aviation accident in South Korean history, couldn't it, in terms of the numbers? I mean, we know 181 people were on board, and the authorities saying that they think most of the people are dead. They've confirmed 176, but they say that they believe most people have died. It's just a matter of confirming them. In terms of the safety record, though, South Korea has a good one.
That is true. People are saying this is definitely the worst plane accident happened after 2000. Before 2000, there was one of the big plane accidents in 1997. However, if we exclude that one, this is, I think this will be the biggest plane accident with the biggest casualties.
Yeah, I've been seeing that the plane manufacturer Boeing has offered its condolences and says it's in touch with South Korea's Jeju Air after this crash. The crash involved a Boeing-made 737-800. What is the CEO was talking earlier, wasn't there, of Jeju Air? What did the CEO have to say?
Actually, the CEO was showing his condolences to the family of the bereaved and those who are related to the passengers. However, there was small dispute among the journalists and the CEO because right after the briefing, CEO tried to leave the location as soon as possible without answering the questions by the journalists. So right now, people are saying the Jeju airline and the relevant people should be take more responsibility and show some actions regarding this accident.
Yeah. OK. Well, thank you so much for talking to us from inside the airport. I really appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll talk to you a bit later. That's Yuna Kyu there talking to us from inside Muan International Airport there. We can just show you the footage of the plane as it came down. It landed on the on the runway at the airport. And as you can see, going at quite some speed without its landing gear down. And this is the moment that it touched down onto the runway. And then you can see there, that's the moment afterwards where it burst into flames after hitting a wall. The death toll has now increased to 177 people. So that is the official number of dead confirmed. There were 181 people on board. And the officials believe that most people on the plane have died, but it's a question of confirming that. We do know, though, that 2 people managed to survive, 2 members of the crew who were based at the back, at the tail, near the tail of the plane, were pulled out and taken to hospital a little earlier. We haven't had an update on their condition as yet, though. We can hear now from the local fire chief who gave an update on the rescue operation at the airport.
We are presuming the cause of the accident to be a bird strike or deteriorating weather conditions, and the exact cause will be determined by a further forensic and joint investigation. We are doing our best to search for more survivors. As a person who has seen the site, I can only say that I am sad.
Well, I mentioned just a moment ago that the CEO of Jeju Air has given a statement. We can hear it now. He's apologised for the incident and bowed deeply during a televised briefing. He said that the cause of the crash was still unknown and that the aircraft had no record of accidents and that there were no early signs of malfunction. He also insisted that the airline will cooperate with investigators and make supporting the bereaved its priority.
Firstly, I bow in apology to everyone who's cherished Jeju Air. Above all, I want to give my sincere apology and condolences to those who've lost their lives in the accident and their families. At the moment, it's hard to presume the cause of the accident, and we have to wait for the official investigation result from the authorities.
Well, the families of the victims of the crash are gathered at Muan International Airport, and they listened as the names of those who died were read out, and a warning that some of you may find this distressing.
양유정 씨, 박연수 씨, 전경미 씨, 윤봉호 씨, 지금까지 22명을 다시 배용진님, 박은정님, 이행자님.
Those are the scenes there at the airport as names of those who died in the crash were read out to the families waiting. We can hear now from Jen Moon, who's a journalist in South Korea. She gave an update from the airport.
So it's been now 7 to 8 hours since the crash, and authorities are still making their way to rescue and search either survivors or those the bodies. Heartbreaking scenes continue to unfold here at Muan International Airport as more than 100 family members gathered in a meeting room to receive updates about their loved ones. They are being briefed every half an hour by government authorities on the whereabouts and the whereabouts of the investigations and the search and rescue operations. But I continue to hear wails of grief by family members. Some are expressing anger at what they see as delayed responses from authorities and the airline. Some of these families have been pleading to be allowed near the crash site since this morning, but were denied access due to the restricted nature of the airport zone. The arrival area of the airport is now packed with families and Red Cross volunteers. They're handing out blankets. Many people are hugging each other, weeping, and there's a lot of just confusion amongst people scrambling to identify their loved ones and fill the airport area where hundreds of relatives are gathered waiting for the news. No cause for the plane crash has been officially confirmed yet, but what the relatives and the loved ones are hearing is that the fire service has actually suggested it could have been because of a collision with birds in poor weather conditions. The Transport Ministry officials have said that their early assessment of communication records showed the airport control tower issued a bird strike warning to the plane shortly before it intended to land and gave its pilot permission to land in a different area. The pilot then sent out a distress signal shortly before the plane went past the runway and skidded across the buffer zone here at the airport.
So they informed the plane that there was a risk that they might hit some birds on landing and gave them the option, do you say, to land somewhere else?
Yes, they were given that, and but still, what we saw was actually a plane landing on a belly landing, actually, without its landing gear operating, and then the plane hitting a wall and bursting into flames. In fact, the plane was almost completely destroyed by this explosion, with from what I saw on site just a few hours ago, with this just tail part retaining a little bit of shape, and the rest of the plane looks almost impossible to recognize. I'm still smelling a lot of aviation fuel here at the airport, and so this was a large explosion that the authorities are still trying to investigate the actual cause.
It is extraordinary as we look at the footage of that crash to think that anybody could have survived, but they did pull 2 people out of the plane, didn't they?
They did. Those were the two crew members, those in their 20s, one male, one female crew members of Jeju Air. They were actually pulled from the tail end of the aircraft. So those two survivors came from the tail end, which is now the only remaining debris from that aircraft crash. The two crew have been sent to Seoul, which is about 288 kilometers from here, to hospitals of their preference in Seoul.
And you said a little earlier that the families, some of them were complaining about the delayed response from the authorities. In what way, what did that refer to, do you know?
So there were a lot of confusion on when and where the briefings from different government ministries would be held. For instance, the briefing that's being held by Jeju Air itself, from the CEO and its top finance officer, are being held in Seoul, which is like I said, 290 kilometers away from here. So the bereaved families are complaining about that. Also, there was also confusion about the list of those identified dead. And so those names did not match the actual identity. So there's just a lot of confusion here right now, with authorities scrambling to get things straight and to basically offer support for the bereaved families.
That is Jen Moon, a journalist at Muan International Airport. I'll just show you the images again of the moment that this airplane came down without its landing gear onto the runway there at Muan International Airport. It then crashed into a wall, and as you can see, it burst into flames, with the flames destroying most of the aircraft. We understand that most of the passengers on board had been in Thailand for a holiday over Christmas. There were two Thai nationals on board, but most of them, the rest of the passengers, were believed to be South Korean. And we know also that two members of the plane's crew did manage to survive and were pulled from the wreckage and taken to hospital. The official number of people who are known to have died is now 177, although we do expect that death toll to rise, because the authorities have said there were 181 people on board and that they believe that most of them have died in that crash at Muan International Airport.